Good afternoon. My name is Giovanni Cortez, and today I'll be discussing a New York Times bestseller book called Wild, written by Cheryl Strayed. In the book, Cheryl mentions how at one point in her life she was at her lowest moment. She mentions how she has fallen into a barely manageable heroin addiction, a disastrous new relationship, and a pattern of self-destructive mistakes. In addition, with the grief and aftermath of losing her mother and terminating her marriage, Cheryl decides to go on a life-changing experience by taking a spontaneous decision to go hiking by herself on the Pacific Crest Trail from Mohammed Desert throughout California and Oregon to Washington State. She has taken this decision in order to redeem herself for her past mistakes and to become the woman she was destined to become. Throughout the book, Cheryl discusses that the hike was a tool that she was using in order to redeem herself for her past mistakes. However, she later realizes that the mistakes that she made were served as a foundation on which lives are built, and instead she needed to experience the healing process in order to accept herself and her past mistakes. A quote that is mentioned that goes along with this concept is, "There were so many other amazing things in this world. They opened up inside me like a river. Like I didn't know I could take a breathe in, then I breathed. I laughed with the joy of it, and the next moment I was crying. My first tears on the Pacific Crest Trail. I cried and I cried and I cried. I wasn't crying because I was happy. I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because of my mother, or my father, or Paul. I was crying because I was full." Page 234, Chapter 14. Cheryl stated in her memoir that she expected her journey on the Pacific Crest Trail to be full of relieving moments of sadness, restoring times of happiness, and relentless emotional onslaught that would heal and redeem her for her past mistakes. However, throughout the entire trail, Cheryl has not wept a single time until now. Before arriving in Oregon, Cheryl was enjoying her final days hiking across California, experiencing a sense of accomplishment and arrival. She enjoys the gorgeous, ever-changing landscape. She befriends hikers, campers, and scouts that would help her and guide her to multiple experiences. In addition, she has multiple experiences with spectacular creatures such as llama, black bears, and deer, which are the first time she has seen one. Moreover, Cheryl is overwhelmed by all the unexpected things in her journey that has brought her. Finally, she lets out a healing cry that she had envisioned all along during this trip. Cheryl, on the other hand, she wasn't letting go of hatred or despair. She just simply achieved a place of fullness and satisfaction that allows for her emotions to flood out and come out. At the end, these experiences Cheryl encountered helped her grow as a human being and let her realize that she did not need redemption. Instead, she needed to experience the healing process, and she did that by letting all her emotions go and by crying for the first time on the Pacific Crest Trail. Another main point that is discussed throughout the book is loss and grief. In the book, Cheryl mentions that her mother passed away at the age of 45. Cheryl did not only lose her mother, but slowly, little by little, she lost her family too. As Cheryl's family grew more and more distant in the wake of their shared loss, Cheryl began to believe that's what loss simply does. It separates individuals when they need to be joined together in common mourning. However, throughout her journey in the Pacific Crest Trail, Cheryl meets new people such as Lou that will change her perspective about loss and grief. In page 186, chapter 11, Cheryl writes a conversation with Lou. It goes like, "I look the same, but I'm not the same in here. I mean, life goes on and all that crap, but Luke dying took out of me. I try not to act like it, but it did. I took the Lou out of Lou, and I ain't getting it back. You know what I mean?" "I do," I said, looking into her hazel eyes. "I thought so," she said. "I had the feeling about you." To begin with, Cheryl joins a ride with a lady called Lou and her husband Spider. When Cheryl inquires about a picture of a little boy hanging from the car's rear view mirror, Lou confesses that the portrait is of her son, a little kid who lost their life in a vehicle accident years ago. Cheryl and Lou spend a time having a conversation at a rest break as they contemplate Lou's loss, and Cheryl's as well. Cheryl has seen a side of Lou that knows joy and allows herself to feel love despite the fact of her son's death. And the passage depicts the duality in grief and loss, that which it never goes away, yet it may be overwhelming if one allows it to be. and it can also take one's life. However, it does not have to destroy all prospects for joy. Cheryl is learning that, though her mother's death will never be forgotten, it does not have to be a defining event in her life. She may acknowledge that the loss altered her without committing her to a life continuum mourning, and without shutting herself out from joy. Cheryl learns throughout her journey that grief has a power to tear people apart, but it can also astonishingly accomplish the opposite and bring them joy during difficult times. At the end, Cheryl grew as an individual throughout her journey in the Pacific Crest Trail by meeting new people and experiencing new events that would change her life for good.